Welcome to One Day in a Wake Up, a show about doing time, getting out, and where you are now. In prison slang, one day in a wake up means you're almost free. Just one more day before they walk you out the gate. So let's walk out together. One Day in a Wake Up on Colorado Radio for Justice.
I'm Herbert Alexander. I go by Herb Lex here at CRJ. This is my man.
I'm Seth Reddy, aka DJ Reddy Red.
Also, my partner in crime. Is that good? Is partner in crime good? Kind of an innuendo. Anyways.
I think you could say that. I mean, we haven't committed any crimes, but we are partners.
We're partners in crime. This is a saying. Don't take this out of context. You're listening to One Day in a Wake Up. So thank you if you took time out of your day to listen to One Day in a Wake Up. I really appreciate it. You might have some interesting gems to drop on you. I guess basically to start, I want to go ahead and let our listeners know, let you know what it is that, that we do here, and, what is the focus of why we do what we do. And it's basically, for me, is to try to help clear up the narrative about who felons are when they get out of prison. And, a lot of the, there's always this look that, because you've committed a felony, because you've been to prison, because you've been to jail, that, you're a bad guy. And we're here to clear things up. Again, thank you for listening. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get to talking to my man Seth here about his time and, how he's been maneuvering through his journey. How long were you in for? If you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I've actually been incarcerated quite a few times throughout my life.
So you had many days in a wake up.
Yeah. I was trying to think about that. Like I've had many one days in a wake up.
Mm-hmm.
But grand total, I was incarcerated about 18 years,
Mm-hmm.
and mostly in prison, some in jail, halfway houses, drug rehabs, juvenile detention facilities. I've counted calendars for most of my life. Yeah, I've experienced quite a few one days in a wake up.
So I guess let's focus on the sweet one.
Oh,
but
for sure, 100%, hands down. May 19th, 2005, on my 29th birthday, I walked out of Ordway at 7 a.m. in the morning after almost 11 years of incarceration.
Okay.
And not only was it it was my birthday, but I'm getting out of prison. I had a beautiful girlfriend that came to pick me up. I mean, it was movie, man. It was
okay.
I won't get into all the details, but it was down to the point that I got to pick my clothing that she brought. I want a pair of black Vans. I want a pair of black Levi's. I want a white T-shirt. And I remember driving away, and my friends were standing out on the yard in Ordway, and they give you the dress outs. They give you they used to give you the old black Rydells. Sunny day on my birthday. It was a big deal. And that 11 years was pretty. We're talking 18 to 29. So, I basically hadn't seen the streets in my 20s. You know what I mean?
What was the anxiety like? Like, let's say we take it back 30 days on a wake up. What was the anxiety like leading up to that?
Oh my goodness. Many, many sleepless nights, just, obsessing on the clock and the calendar. You know what I mean? Because after that long, I just, really couldn't wait to
a lot of daydreaming about what you were going to do and what plans you were going to make.
Yeah. And it's weird because when I think back to that version of myself, all of the things that I was thinking in regards to reentry were none of the important things that I should have been thinking about. I should have been thinking about getting an ID and getting my birth certificate and, maybe some job leads, and none of that stuff even crossed my mind. I was more concerned about the food I was going to eat, the clothing I was going to wear, the music I was going to listen to, which is all great, but just not a really good focus on, you know, the day after you get out. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
it is like, okay, I'm out now. What type thing?
Because I wanted to get at that. So those thinking and those daydreams, do you remember if they were all positive? Because it wasn't your last time, you know, getting out. Was there anything in your mind that you were like, okay, I'm going to do something that that you shouldn't be doing?
Yeah. I mean, what's the statute of limitations? Where we at?
Yeah.
Um,
No, just basically like, because people have dreams. Like I've listened to many guys in prison, like, hey, what are you going to do when you get out? And there's been a lot of times when the wrong thing fell out their mouths.
and yeah, when I got out in 2005,
And you were young, so
yeah, I wasn't like a full good guy at that point. I was still a drug addict. I got out, a drug addict and a drug seeker. And so I was definitely following that path. Uh, and not to sound hypocritical, but everything else in my life, I had like this felony free mantra. Like, I'm felony free. I mean, I'll do drugs, but I'm felony free.
As long as I don't pull guns on people, everything is good.
Yeah. And, after, a couple near overdoses, I've been clean off of drugs for 12 years now. So
congratulations, bro.
Right on.
Congratulations.
But so yeah, when I got out the first time, I definitely wasn't like, looking for a successful reentry journey. But that definitely changed. I ended up going back for 4 years, was re-released.
How long before you went back?
Not long at all. I was out like 7 months or, just a period of a few months.
That's the worst.
Yeah. And well, what was really difficult about it is, the first chunk of time that I didn't really know what I was missing. You know what I mean? Like, I had never like really fallen in love. I'd never driven a car. There was like all of these things that I hadn't, went out to nice restaurants and stuff. I went from a delinquent kid to a delinquent adult, and, now here I am. But when I go back, after getting out, now I had learned what I was missing. I'd fallen in love. I tried all sorts of great food. I got to wear my own clothes. You know what I mean? I got to like establish this new identity, that was outside of prison. And so, but when I went back, it was terrible. That 4 years was exponentially longer than, that first decade.
When you went back in, did you ever run into those guys who were doing like ridiculous numbers? And they would say things such as, if I had your chance, I would never come back, type of guys.
Yeah. And I probably echoed those same things to people before I got out the first time, like thinking it was so easy, or that, like just being locked up was the problem. Like I wasn't the problem, or the things I was doing wasn't the problem. It's just prison, and
what was that day that you go back? What was that like?
Miserable. I mean, the whole thing, miserable. Like, there was not one happy moment to it. Even seeing people I hadn't seen in a while, none of that stuff
mattered.
No.
Yeah.
My eyes were, where they should have been during my first sentence. My eyes were on a successful reentry the next time. I was wasting my life. I was wasting my time. And like I said, I got to go out and kind of recreate this identity of myself that was brand new. And it looked like somebody that, got to go fishing, and somebody that liked to set tile, and somebody that liked to go to concert, and it was all these things that, I started to, really feel a sense of self, and to have to go back and to lose that identity and just become another number.
So it's safe to say your sweetest time getting out, your one day in the wake up, is maybe just sweet.
Right.
But this one here.
Truth. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And
so
I feel that.
For me, this is the best.
Truth.
Because now you go in and now you have more experience, a little bit more experience of life, of what what you're going to be, jumping into, because it's not easy for dudes to just jump from prison to the streets, especially if you've done a decade. Especially if you've done a decade. So cell phones weren't out really that when you went in.
I think they maybe just like
barely coming out, not to the extent that they are now. And so, what year did you get out on that for?
2010. Yep.
2010.
June 10th, 2010.
Smartphones are just jumping off.
Yep. I'm getting out from Buena Vista. I got out in 2010, and I was actually working in radio when I got out from there.
Did you take the bus when they came to get you, or did you?
No, a friend of mine's wife came and picked me up, and
that's the best too.
Yeah, that's definitely. It was a great ride. She's a great friend, and yeah, this time the first time when I was telling you when I left in 2005, I was, I took my Rydell's off and all this, and I like threw it at the fence next to the tower while everybody was standing out there so I could put my own stuff on. This time I didn't throw my clothes back onto the property. I went to the gas station and changed.
Growth.
Growth. Yes.
Growth.
Yes.
So that's what that is.
So I'm proud to say that.
All right. So leading up, to not where you are now, but going on your journey to be free and stay free. What steps did you take?
Well, it's definitely been a 2 steps forward, 1 step back journey, even since 2010. I've always battled with addiction. I've struggled in those ways since then. Fortunately, like I said, I haven't done drugs since 2012, but there was still 2 years right there after that release that, I was actively using on parole.
Were there triggers for that? I mean, or was it just?
I think I was the trigger, when it came to that type of stuff. But all of it is overwhelming. The whole aspect of going from a prison lifestyle to, to the streets where, and I think for me, it was difficult in the ways that, I was doing it with very little support, no family support, a couple of friends. I literally had a couple of friends in Denver, and they were, previously incarcerated addicts, you know what I mean? So like my support system was nil.
Did you have the feeling of being alone?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because even now, with me, the only, who I get phone calls from? Oh. I don't get phone calls from a lot of people that are free.
Right.
Majority of people that I talk to that call me are incarcerated.
Right.
And you can say some of them live vicariously, but those, they just want to see, how I'm doing. So when I get around people like me, like you, it's kind of refreshing. I feel better.
I feel the same way, yeah. I think it's gotten easier for me over the years. Some of the work that we've been doing has really allowed me to kind of shake that feeling, because it used to be overwhelming, just the, feeling like I don't belong, feeling like an outsider in every situation. And, I think the longer I've been out, the more progress that I've made, the easier it's gotten. But I went through all of the headaches and hurdles of reentry, from, the mental health side of it to the, economic side of it, trying to find work when I've never even had a job. I remember going to interviews and people would be looking at my job applications, and this is all during the halfway house time. And, and we were on a strict thing. We had to fill out 5 applications a day, 5 days a week, but I was hungry. So I was trying to go get her. I was putting in 6 to 8 a day. But my applications were blank because I had no job history. Mm-hmm. I didn't go to college. No military history. My family was gone. I didn't have any references. I didn't have a driver's license. So basically my application was my name and my age and today's date.
And the box.
Yeah.
And the felony box.
Check your felony box, and
Mhm.
no, you cannot wash dishes here at the Great Spaghetti Factory, sir. and that was that literal story, you know. And
Well,
so,
kudos to you because, I mean, and I'm not putting anybody down, but a lot of people don't have coming out, have that strength sometimes to just, to keep pushing forward, to try to, maybe you get denied these 10 jobs, but it's going to happen somewhere,
yeah,
as long as you keep pushing through it and keep trying. But, sometimes, society makes it hard. I know, I've gotten many letters. Thank you for the interest in our company. But unfortunately, you can't talk on the telephone here.
yeah. No telemarketing for you.
Yeah, no telemarketing for you. We don't want you to steal our cords or whatever it is they have. But I want to get into, if you don't know who we are, Google us. Inside Wire, Colorado Prison Radio. Check us out. You know what I'm saying? If our listeners don't know, we were a prison radio station that was able to be broadcast, through the internet everywhere in the world. Do you remember coming to Inside Wire and the reason why you came? And another, gem I'm going to drop on you is that, quick bullet point is that it was sponsored by Denver University Prison Arts Initiative, which, you were part of. And
yeah,
what brought you there, and, was that therapeutic for you?
super. Well, what brought me there, like I was saying, when I was in Buena Vista, I worked in radio broadcasting course that they had there, and worked there for a number of years and really enjoyed the work, enjoyed the environment. We weren't doing quite what Inside Wire was doing, but it was still, it was in the region, in the realm. And I got to, my main thing was got to listen to music, and that's my draw to that initially. Fast forward, 10 years or 12 years.
And that's how long you've been out.
I've been out that, 14 years I've been out. But in following DUPI, Denver University Prison Arts Initiative, on social media, I had seen an application or a job posting for a communications associate for Inside Wire, Colorado Prison Radio. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, what is this? And reached out, filled out this was an online application.
The application.
Yeah. That's how I knew they were bougie. I was like, ooh, look at this digital copy here. But yeah, I reached out and got an interview with Ryan Connell. And yeah, I think we hit it off almost initially. And yeah, we just took off running with it. I was fortunate enough to, be able to go back into Lyman for the launch. That's when me and you got to meet for the first time, and I met the whole Lyman team. Yeah. I got to experience Inside Wire's launch, and then as we progressed, finally got to, not finally, but was given the opportunity to go back into Buena Vista, and in the same space that I was in radio broadcasting 10 and 15 years ago. We got to create an Inside Wire studio there, which Herb Lex was also there.
Give me some.
And we had a couple producers in there, and we're really kind of cranking out some good content and having a lot of fun. And dramatic moment of silence for that studio.
Yeah.
I miss it.
We'll talk about it another time.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that another time. All right. So you're a tile setter.
I am.
Now, this is the thing, people. My man's not just a tile setter. My man is an extraordinary tile setter.
I'm pretty good.
Extraordinary. I've been in magazines and stuff and everything. Work you've done and been in magazines and everything that. So for all you people out there that think when we get out we're worthless or don't have, the skills that it takes to do the job that needs to be done, like my man here is an exception to that, because you got to see his work. What got you into tile?
Well, it was kind of my response to nobody wanting to hire me because of my, basically see-through application. And in trying to find work, I had helped a friend of mine tile his kitchen floor and really enjoyed it. It was physical, it was artistic, there's math involved, like 3 of my favorite subjects, and it was just fun for me for whatever reason. And I asked him, I was like, so how much would you have made, charging a customer for this floor? And he told me, some price, and I was just blown away. I was like, really? I could. And so it was at that moment that, and this was during a time, I had, and not to get way off subject, but just to kind of give some context, my folks had passed away while I was in prison. And so when I got out, I had about $50,000, which of course I would give it all back for a hug, one more hug. But, I had this insurance money. And so that's how I had this money. And so in talking to my friend that I helped do the kitchen floor, he told me that. I was like, well, let's just start a tile business then. I was like, I got some money. Let's go buy a van. I thought you needed a van. I'm glad I got out of that phase because I'm not a van guy anymore, but I used to be in a white van. It's just not a good look. Nobody looks great in a white van, but...
Did you have a ladder on the top?
No ladders, no tiles are on the floor usually, top of a shower. But no, we went out and literally bought a van, bought all the tools, got incorporated, took out ads in some of the local newspapers around Denver, made flyers and started passing them out in neighborhoods, going to realtor's office, passing out flyers, and just really hit the ground with that and never looked back. Do
you think that was part of what helped you stay out?
For sure. Run? Yeah, it definitely gave me, a sense of purpose. It obviously was, lucrative, helping me, pay my parole fees and restitution and rent and food and all the other stuff, so, yeah, tile definitely saved my life. I don't know what else I would have ended up doing, but I'm passionate about what I do. I love it. I've gotten to incorporate art into my style, and yeah, I hope to continue to create tile art in the future. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. So, if you just say hypothetically you were walking past a prison and you seen a young guy getting out, you know what he's looking like. He's in his polo shirt, khaki pants. Mm-hmm. What words would you give to him to help him succeed as you have? And a lot of it's probably going to be, it takes a lot of maturing too. So
yeah, and I meant, and not that work is the, what's going to save everybody, but I think for sure, especially coming out of a structured environment like prison, whether or not you're assigned in there or not, it's still like structured and you got to be here at this time. Mm-hmm. It's like you're at work all the time. And so when you get out, and you don't have those parameters and that structure, I think it's really difficult for guys to adjust. And so for 2 reasons. 1, to just kind of help you adjust, and 2, to get some money in your pockets, is get to work. Like, that's the first thing I'm going to be like, and I'm going to try to help you find a job too, if I can, and, because then at least you got that. And then you can start chipping away at all the other things. Like, okay, I got a job now, I'm getting a little bit of money. Now I can start thinking about a vehicle or start thinking about
an apartment, a place to stay,
all that stuff. So that's the message I would probably try to send that guy.
So let's circle back to the day that you got out, after all the anxieties, after, you go through, what do we call it? Processing, getting out process and everything like that. What was your day? Walk us through your day.
Really, the one thing that stands out the most to me is the morning that I was leaving, all my friends and acquaintances coming to my door and me giving all of my stuff away underneath the door, like everything I owned, like here, take my clothes, take my sweats, take my shoes, take my clock, take my art supplies, just giving everything away. So that moment stands out. It's kind of like a, sad thing, because I know, a lot of these people, I'm probably never going to see again. And these are people that I cared about and loved. And I mean, you live in a tiny cell with the man for any amount of time. You're either going to become really close or
enemies.
And so fortunately, I had a lot of great friends, and, so it is kind of a sad moment on that day. But I mean, obviously it all, it's automatic goosebumps when that gate opens. It's just automatic goosebumps, at least for me. I don't know about anybody else, but just, you step outside the gate. It's weird. And, the air just feels different. It's like crisper and lighter, and you can breathe better. And it just feels like just cooler, just, and then just, getting that long, uninterrupted first hug from my people. You know what I mean? Like it was my friend's wife, but, really, really tight. You know what I mean? And, usually, you can get maybe a quick little 2-second pat in the visiting room, but like to just be able to go out there and just really just wrap your arms around somebody and give them a good hug. And,
without the monitorization of, somebody looking down on you, like make sure you're not touching wrong, like
and then just driving out, and I remember her rolling her window down and just saying peace out, to the prison, like she was just talking to the prison, driving off fast away from there. So that was it.
Thank you for joining us here on One Day in the Wake Up. We just came up with that, by the way. You know what I'm saying? So join us again next week. I'm Herbert Alexander. Go by Herb Lex.
DJ Ready Red, a.k.a. Seth Ready.
No, I think that's backwards.
Oh, did I get it backwards?
Yes. Jeez.
To who it may concern, I'm at the point of no return. It took a couple round trips in order for me to learn, and I ain't never going back. Allow me to be exact. You let pain run its course till you're forced to adapt in the worst habitat. Speaking matter of fact, zigzagging through this maze with my brain still intact. Progress is the phase, the rest is just cap. What lurks after that? Fresh air don't care when you spent light years in a prison, shifting gears with the friction and the tears. Addictions in the rear, model for your peers. That's the sum of all fears. This is not a hot take. One day in a wake till a steak on my plate. Kiss from my mate, life reanimate. Exist to be great. Let your thoughts elevate. Bend but don't break, cause your past and your future can no longer correlate.
One Day in a Wake Up is a production of Colorado Radio for Justice. Check out CRJ at radioforjustice.org and across social media at Radio for Justice. This episode of One Day in a Wake Up was produced by me, Seth Reddy, alongside Taylor Hanson and Herbert Alexander. Executive producers for this show are Ryan Conero, Herbert Alexander, Taylor Hanson, and myself, Seth Reddy. Our theme music is by Herbert Alexander. This is One Day and a Wake Up.